And let's do this. If you're not muted, go ahead and mute for me. Today is one of my brother's birthdays. We're not quite sure if he's 34 or 35, so I have to call my mom to check. I don't know if you guys know your siblings' ages or your parents' ages, but my family, we definitely do not know everyone's age. I think it's because there's like 36 cousins on my mom's side, and she's got 11 brothers and sisters, so it was just never an option that we really cared about. But anyways, my brother's birthday's today, so yay. All right, let's talk about what we've been talking about the last 8 weeks or so, 7 weeks. We're going to continue to work on our 5-minute habit. And I've said this a couple times now, it can be the same thing, it can be a new thing. Our habit for Paramount this week was making your bed. And I started making my bed like 2 weeks ago every single morning. And I don't know, it gives me a sense of accomplishment in the day. So it could be as simple as that, just something to try for a week and see how it makes you feel. Eating protein, eating slow, and we're gonna talk about eating slow a little bit more today. We're talking about carbs. With carbs, this could be higher quality carbs, or it could be portion control. So whatever kind of you need right now, that's what I would focus on. As we get into our discussion for today, we're gonna talk about fats, which will play a little bit into the overeating with carbs as well. And then eating to satisfy. And then today we're gonna talk about fats. So we'll probably spend 2 weeks just talking about fats, just because there's a lot of information with this. But if you have questions today about anything, I can go into a little bit more detail or share that in the group folder. All right, so you guys all have your macro sheet. You probably saw the portion sizes for fats. So if you look at eating 3 to 4 meals a day, I think most of you are doing between 1 to 3 though. You can kind of gauge how much fat most people do well with. So a thumb of fat is about the same as a tablespoon if you're doing actual measurements. And if we get too little fat, you can kind of see some of the feelings or symptoms. The one that I think is most important to us, since we're so youthful right now and living in our best age range, I think, is having that kind of dry or dull hair, skin, and nails. So if we get the right amount of fat, that kind of makes, we just look better. So if you're cutting out fat, which I don't think most of us are doing, I think we do a good job with getting some like good nuts and olive oil and coconut oil and avocados. Too many fats, this is where we can feel overfull, but mostly this is where we can gain a lot of body fat. And then the just right amount, you can kind of see where we're feeling. So healthy weight, we have energy, we feel clear-headed, our hair, skin, and nails look amazing. All right. Now let's talk about the types of fats. I am talking about the good fats. So the trans fats and other things like that is where we get into the highly processed foods. So I'm not gonna spend too much time today talking about that. But if you're looking to get really kind of nitty gritty about the types of fats, start to look at a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio. So we have saturated fats, butter, coconut. You can also see that there's other sources there that you can play around with. Monounsaturated, that's the nuts, peanuts, avocado, olive oils. And then polyunsaturated, flaxseed, chia seeds. Those are great to add into, you know, the chia seed pudding or overnight oats or to your shakes. And I have a chat here. Can everyone else hear me?
I can definitely hear you.
Okay, great. Karen, I would check your Bluetooth. She can't hear me, so why would I even say that? Sorry for the interruption. All right, so that's the type of fats. This is getting into more of the types of fats. This is a big question that usually comes up, what to cook with. So you can kind of see the different, for high heat, for medium heat. I use olive oil for just about everything because I'm really lazy. We do have avocado oil. We have those big jugs from Costco. So we kind of play and alternate between avocado oil and olive oil, but we don't make it necessarily like huge effort to distinguish with what we're cooking because we're pretty lazy. We have coconut oil that we use. Alex has made clarified butter a bunch of times and it ends up being super delicious when we're cooking steaks. So kind of a quick overview with the healthy fats here. So that's just a really high level of like the types of fats, how to kind of break it up, how to cook with it. And now we're gonna kind of switch gears slightly and talk about why it's so hard to kind of manage to avoid highly processed foods that's pretty high in fat in particular. Some of you guys might have seen this before, but we've got a lot of manufactured deliciousness going on. So if you go to the store, and I know I've talked to a lot of you about this, probably in the past, those halo foods, health halo, if you see the labels paleo or vegan or keto in front of a cookie or ice cream or a type of bread, it's still kind of junk food and highly processed food, but it makes us feel like we're making better choices. But a keto or paleo cookie is still a cookie, and those should be consumed in moderation if you're looking to kind of change your body comp or improve your health. Not to say you can't eat the cookie, but if you're gonna eat the cookie, you might as well go for the most delicious one instead of this like fake version of a treat. And then a lot of you have probably heard the whole treat yourself with things like, oh, it's been a really tough day, like you deserve this, treat yourself on a lot of the labels that you might see or the advertisements. That's kind of where we get into that whole health halo, where they trick our brain to thinking that we're doing something healthy when we're actually not. It's still probably a better choice if you're doing it in moderation for certain people, if you've got some like health issues. So I don't do great with dairy. So when I do like the fake dairy, it makes me feel better, but it's still something that I do on occasion. And then we get into the whole health tax. So if you look at fast food, for example, I'm just going to use that as an example. If you go into a fast food joint and you get a burger, fries, and like an extra large Coke, generally that's going to be less expensive than a salad with grilled chicken and a bottle of water. And so the health tax is we pay lower upfront, but we pay more later on as we get older and our the health impact is a little bit more greater. The other piece with this manufactured deliciousness, these brands are so smart at creating this variety. So if we get a bunch of different flavor profiles going on at once, so think of like a trail mix or like the party mix with like the nuts and the pretzels and the Chex Mix, that variety makes us hungrier, makes us crave more. So they create this illusion of hunger by making it seem super interesting and a little party in your mouth as we get into this next little part. So as we stack a bunch of things together, the salt, sugar, fat, it makes our mouth really happy and it makes us feel good. And that is by design. So they know that you'll eat more and then you'll buy more and then they make more money as a result of creating this little party in your mouth, if you will. The next little piece with this is they've done studies, and these highly processed foods and fast foods, their goal is to have you eat it in 10 bites or less. So when it hits your mouth, it almost kind of starts to dissolve. There's been like fast food places or like even like fast food restaurants like Chili's or Applebee's, they inject like the chicken with I don't know what it is, but it basically makes it easier for it to like break down once you start to chew it. So you don't have to like chew it as much. And again, this is to get you to eat more and crave it more. You think about like eating potato chips or cookies, you could probably do that in like 2 or 3 bites. Whereas like eating the grilled chicken, for example, or an apple, you might get closer to 20 to 25-ish bites. So another manufactured thing that they do to trick us. And then finally, we blame a lot of things on willpower or motivation, if you will. But if you look back to our evolution, that's really what's to blame, not our willpower. So if you think about the cavemen and women and people, they created a protective barrier when they were going to eat like fruits or berries or leaves. And so they didn't eat them as much because they couldn't tell what was poisonous or not. So they wouldn't necessarily grab all that stuff unless they like had a absolutely sure that this was like a safe thing, because they couldn't tell like necessarily what, like kale, for example, with another plant that looks similar, one's poisonous, one's not. So they weren't able to eat as many like vegetables and fruits and berries as we can today. So the craving of that that food type isn't part of our brain and part of our like, I guess, DNA. But if they found, and it was all about calories, right? So those are very low calorie, low reward points there, and they're just trying to survive and get as many calories as possible. So when they got meat, it was great. When they knew that there were different leaves or berries that they could eat, it was great. And then imagine if you found like a macadamia nut. Is it a tree or a plant? I don't even know, but they found that, and that's highly, really high in fat. So you're getting a ton of calories, plus it's safe, plus it's kind of delicious. So that's why we crave the fat benefit, I guess. So it's really part of our evolution and not necessarily our willpower. So we can blame our ancestors on that. And since we know that, and since we start to know these different things, we can start to make more active decisions about what our choices are when it comes to manufactured or highly processed foods. I got like 2 more slides here. All right, so for the next week or so, I am gonna share 3 experiments that you can do just to get, just to give yourself more information about the food that you eat. So the first one, you're gonna count your chews. You're not gonna do it for every meal, for every food, but at some point in the next week, when you're eating a whole food, so a vegetable, lean protein, etc., notice how many chews it takes for you to eat that. And then in the next week, do the same thing with something that's more processed. So chips, cookies, pasta, etc., and notice how many chews. So just get some data points for yourself. The second experiment is go into your pantry. And I know I've said this, that no one's actually gonna do it of like throwing out that junk food, but look at your pantries and just start to give yourself, again, more data and more information. So do you have any health halo foods in your fridge or pantry right now? After you do that, look at the nutritional information. So I start to look at the ingredients first, and then I look at the protein, and then I look at the calories. And that's pretty much where I end up stopping if I'm looking at a new item that I'm gonna purchase or have in my house. And then the third thing with the evaluating your pantry is how many varieties of junk foods or health halo foods do you have? Do you have just a bag of pretzels or a bag of chips or the veggie sticks? Or do you have a couple different types of chips, a couple different types of ice cream? Again, this is that little variety makes us hungrier component there. And then the last experiment that you can try is identify your triggers. So is it a long day at work? Is it having a conversation with your mom? Is it not getting a good night's sleep? Identify your triggers, and then we can start to practice new behavior. So this is just that, give yourself a 5 to 10 minute pause. Notice your trigger, start a new practice or a new behavior, and then it's just practice, practice, practice. So those are 3 things that you can try. You don't have to do all of them. I would start to see what makes the most sense for you and kind of what seems like the most meaningful, and then go from there. And then to wrap it up, as we continue to go through this program, we're on week 8. Continue to be kind with yourself, but also curious and honest. So as you're being kind, like, we don't want to beat yourself up about anything, but be curious about what your triggers are, where you kind of go to find comfort, which is very important during this time as we're in this pandemic. And then start to be honest with yourself. You can start to use that traffic light system that we've talked about. So red light foods, where you just, as soon as you start to consume it, there's no stopping, and try to avoid purchasing the red light foods, and then kind of living in that yellow and green light world. Continue to, you can kind of see putting quality over quantity, which is hard to do, but whenever you can. And then whole foods, good habits. And then the biggest one is that if you slow down just a little bit, it's going to give you time for you to kind of catch up with yourself and ask yourself some questions, and you can kind of sit with what feels uncomfortable, and then you can make like an active decision from there versus just kind of like mindlessly overeating without even thinking about it. And that is it for today. We did this activity last week. I'm just going to throw this up here. I'm going to share this in the email for the week as well. So what are you confident about right now? What habits do you think might be challenging in this upcoming week? And then what is one thing that you can do to help work through this? So I'm going to stop sharing right now and open this up to any questions. And we're good. Excellent. I love it. So before we on the call, or before you like move on to the rest of your day, do that last little activity on your own. So what do you feel super confident about this upcoming week? What do you have going on that might make something challenging? And then what's one thing, so not like 20 things, but what's one thing that you can do to set yourself up for success in the upcoming week? Excellent. All right. Well, lovely. What are you guys up to for the rest of the weekend? I'm going to stop recording and we can chat for a second if you guys are